everyone, it's Emma. Today I'm going to talk about Illuminae by Kristoff and Amie Kaufman. It's been a while since I did like a good old-fashioned book talk, so this video I'm going to do a short section at the beginning to give you a spoiler-free summary, and then I'm going to go into details about the book. So if you haven't read it, you can keep watching for a little bit and I will tell you when to stop watching. I was really hesitant to read this book for a long time, even though there's been a ton of hype about it on BookTube and all over the place. It's sci-fi, and I just don't really enjoy sci-fi books. Like, all of the terminology and stuff just goes in one ear and out the other ear. After the Gemina, the second book, came out, I started to get more interested in it from all the reviews I was seeing. Illuminae is the first book in what I think is going to be a trilogy, and the first two books are out. What did intrigue me about it is the way it's written. It's written through chat blogs and like surveillance footage recaps and stuff. The whole thing is just really creative. Sometimes it looks kind of like this, and you have to follow the words across the page. So that did intrigue me, but I am so happy that I picked it up. And so happy that I finished it. Like 200 pages through, I considered giving up on it. And by the end, I was just on the edge of my seat. I had butterflies in my stomach. And I was so surprised by how emotionally attached I was to these characters. The basic gist of this is that our two kind of main characters, Katie and Ezra, they were a couple and they broke up the day before this huge attack on their planet. But they ended up on different spaceships in like the mass exodus. We kind of follow the events of these ships that they're on, but we follow through their roles in everything that goes on. It's really interesting how it's written. I loved it. You don't really know where the files are coming from until later in the book, but once you found out like why it was that we're reading so much about Katie and Ezra and like the point of views that we're getting, I found it really interesting. I thought it was kind of amazing what these writers did. It's really funny. Right from the beginning, I was laughing a lot, so that had me pulled in, but I wasn't sold until Aiden, the artificial intelligence character, was introduced. I knew there was an artificial intelligence character going in, but I figured they would be like the typical super creepy AI character, which is not what I found. Yes, he was creepy, but his point of view was actually my favorite. It was so poetic and lyrical. It was almost like something went wrong in his hardwiring, and he was a little too close to human. Like, he had human emotions, or almost human emotions, but he was still a computer, and you could tell that he like thought everything through, like using equations. I just did not expect the emotional roller coaster that was this book. So many ups and downs. I was just going crazy. That's pretty much all I can say for non-spoilers. I would definitely recommend people trying the book. I went in trying to ignore the hype, and I think that's one reason why I really ended up liking it. Because there usually is a reason that there's a lot of hype with books. There usually is something that's really unique about them. But I usually find that if I pay too much attention to the hype, it ruins the book for me. So if you have not read the book, you should leave now, because that's all I'm going to say for non-spoilers, because there's some crazy things that go on, and I just would really like to rant about it for a good long time. So if you haven't read the book, leave now. I'm going to put it on my shelf. When the book is down, you should be gone. The first thing that I've written down in my notes just says, why is it so much funnier when cussing is blacked out? I don't know what this is, but it is so much funnier when you can't actually see the cuss words. I was laughing so hard at the beginning of this book, and usually like that the stereotypical soldiers who like cuss a lot and are really crude is really annoying to me. In this book, it was just hilarious. So first of all, I really loved Katie's character. I loved how stubborn she was. She was a realistic, strong-willed girl in that it was her strong suit, but it was also her weakness. And you saw that a lot in her relationship with Ezra, and how like she would hang on to things and get into fights over things over and over again. But at the same time, being so stubborn and strong-willed is definitely what made her survive till the end, because it kept her going. I loved her journal entries. They were so emotionally raw and really gave you a look inside her character. I think that's one of the reasons I got so attached to these characters, because you're seeing them from all different sides. Like, you're seeing how they talk to other people. Sometimes you're seeing other people's observations of them, and then sometimes you're seeing their most private thoughts, which is just so unique. Usually you only get like one side or maybe two point of views, but it really gave me a clear, big picture of these characters. I think that's why I got so emotionally attached to them so quickly. I was so devastated when James McNulty, Ezra's friend, when he got stuck in like that airlock thing because his suit got contaminated, that was when I realized that I was really invested in these characters because we don't even know a lot about James. I was devastated. I was devastated for Ezra and the fact that like he didn't know where McNulty was. I was even more devastated by how he died in the end. McNulty and Byron's deaths were the most devastating for me. Well, no. Ezra and Aiden's deaths were the most devastating for me, but they're not actually dead, so they don't count. When they died, I was messed. These plot twists had me going crazy. Did not see them coming at all. Like, I'm just gonna talk about the whole big plot twist with Aiden right now because I still can't believe it. Looking back, it was so obvious that it wasn't Ezra talking to Katie after he sent those poems that were in the shape of a heart. When I looked back, it was really obvious that something was off with Ezra. A lot of times I see plot twists coming, or I at least suspect. I just didn't even suspect. The timing in this book was so good. The dramatic timing, the comedic timing, it was just perfect. Sometimes you'll know stuff before the characters do, and there's something really dramatic and great about that. I kind of expected the writing style to be a weak point of the book just for me. I thought it would be very detached because it's like chat conversations and stuff, but it was actually the complete opposite. It made me really, really involved in the characters' lives. So I loved the writing styles. It was my favorite thing. And usually I'm a character reader, but this time the writing style really trumped all. My favorite part of the book was Aiden. How was such a creepy computer-generated creature so romantic? Not that I was like falling for him, but the things he said about Katie were so poetic and beautiful. There was this one part where he was talking about the tears reflecting on her space helmet or something. They made me feel compassion for this creepy AI character who's killing a ton of people, but I really liked Aiden and I wanted him to live, and I definitely thought of him as more of a person than I normally would. Usually with AI characters, I can't suspend my disbelief and they're like not people to me at all. But Aiden was a really good twist of that kind of cliche AI character. As soon as he came in, the Lincoln caught up to them. I was just completely hooked. The space battles, I loved the space battles, how it was all formatted so that you could kind of see the movement of the ships in like how the words were pasted on the page. Ezra was such a hero. He was so good. I loved how chivalrous he was. I don't know, there was something like old-fashioned about him, kind of like a country boy. I'm not sure why I got that impression, but I just did. He was so loyal to his friends. Like, Katie had to work really hard to make him not go get James, even though it wouldn't make any sense at all. But I loved how loyal he was to his friends. I liked how, even though they were broken up at the beginning, he was still really head over heels for Katie. It was such an interesting dynamic. It's been a while since I was just drawn into a teenage romance. I forget how old they were. Maybe like 17. I liked their relationship a lot. I shipped them really hard, and that doesn't happen all the time for me. In my notes I said, just a good old-fashioned teenage romance, with life-threatening plagues and AI romantic rivals. After Aiden revealed that he had been talking as Ezra, I held out hope the whole time that Ezra was alive. It just didn't seem like he was dead, but I was so nervous that he was actually dead, and then I thought Katie was gonna die and Ezra was gonna turn out to be alive, and Ezra was gonna take the files that she had carried with her in the escape pod at the end and then use that to save the world or whatever, but that Katie would be dead and it would be like this half Romeo and Juliet thing. But I am so happy that didn't happen. The roller coaster made the happy ending so much better. Again, with the whole timing thing, when I got to that page that was the kiss made out of all the words, I came running out of my room up to my mom and showed her the page. Because I was so emotional in the middle of the book, it made the happy ending so much better. When we find out Katie was alive, Ezra's alive, and then their reunion, and then you find out Aiden is also still existing, it was just so good. The way they timed everything was perfect to make me feel it to the utmost. I never thought I would have cried happy tears because an artificial intelligence character survived, but I did. A lot of times in these books where the world is just ending or dystopian, I don't enjoy them because there's too much darkness and it's not ambiguous enough. But in this book, amidst the crazy plague and the ship that was coming after them and their planet being destroyed. Sometimes they would mention that like a baby was born. Ezra and Katie were still really flirty, that there was life in the midst of all of that. I thought they did that really well. I also really liked the morally gray characters. There was kind of this theme of making hard decisions, making impossible decisions in these crazy, high-stake, life-threatening situations. Not just with Aiden and the way that he thought he was saving anyone, because that was more of the extreme example, but there was that one captain lady who flushed everyone out the airlock because they thought one person was infected. And I was so angry at her, and then I kept thinking back to it and thinking that it's possible that she saved everyone's lives on the other ship, on the Hypatia. Not that she did the right thing, like if I was in that situation, I wouldn't have done that. Whereas a lot of times when it's like that kind of greater good thinking, I just completely don't agree with it. This book made me think, which I love that. It was so full of really brave characters. Katie, I respect Katie so much. The amount of stuff she lived through, if I thought about it too much, I would have had an anxiety attack. She was on this ship surrounded by all these infected people. She's the only one there. She has like no escape plan at all, and she thinks her boyfriend who she did all of this for is dead, and her mom is dead, and her dad is probably dead, and yet she keeps going and she keeps going. And I loved those moments where she seemed to almost lose her resolve and then find it and push forward. That's what I love about these types of books when it's done really well. The emphasis on humanity and how humans survive past all hope, and they keep moving forward and they keep creating beauty in the midst of just complete desolation. There was this moment where Aiden showed Katie the view of the stars outside, and I think it was through a hole that was blown in the ship. She has almost died so many times. She's in the midst of this extreme trial. She almost doesn't push forward, and then Aiden shows her that sight and the beauty of the universe while there's utter destruction around her. That was really powerful. I didn't expect that from this book. So I'm guessing the second book is going to be more about this plague and Baytech. Ezra's mom is really high up in Baytech. I didn't really understand exactly who she was. I thought it was unique how little we actually found out about the plague. It played this huge part, but we didn't really find out what was going on at all. Like, why did they keep saying, "Don't look at me"? That was so interesting. Even though they revealed almost nothing, and what they did reveal was really slow, I didn't feel like we missed out. I didn't feel like it was too slow. I liked that they set that up so concretely in the first book, but I'm guessing that's what the second and third book are going to be more about, like them taking down Baytech and figuring out what's really going on, especially because of at the end, didn't Katie say something to Ezra's mom about like, "I know everything," or "Aiden figured everything out"? I'm also hoping that Katie's dad is alive. I can't remember if it was ever definite that Ezra's dad died. Somebody remind me down below if you remember. But I'm hoping that Katie's dad is still alive and that they'll find him. That's pretty much all I have to ramble about. I really loved this book. Again, it surprised me so much how much I loved it. I can't wait to read the second one. I'm curious to know what I'm going to think, because half the people have told me that they didn't like the second one at all, and half the people have said that Gemina is so much better. So I'm curious to see what I think of it. I also heard that Gemina is about different characters, which makes me really interested to read it. I'm definitely going to read it this month because I just can't wait. I want to read it like now. Let me know your thoughts on Illuminae down below. If you liked the writing style, also if you liked Gemina more or less than Illuminae, I would be really curious to know what those of you who have read Gemina, what you thought. Obviously, don't spoil Gemina for me. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button. I'm Miss Emma Reads a Lot on all of my social media, which I will link down in the description box. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon with a new video.